With the apocalypse's arrival, demons began to appear. Therefore, the earth was completely dominated by them, and there was no hope. Many people died, and consequently, the remaining survivors tried to flee in panic, or they became toys for the demons. Earth is shown from space, where it once was a paradise for humanity. However, it became a hell of terror. One person says that they arrived almost at the ruins, and so the demons could not follow them. A man carries his sister on his back in a destroyed city, and she says that she cannot continue anymore, and therefore asks him to leave her behind. A character questions what another is saying because they need to cross the ruins first, and then they will find food after arriving. The boy trips on debris, and as a result, two individuals fall to the ground, thus one of them screams in pain while the other looks scared. The boy tries to help his sister who has fallen on the ground and shouts words of encouragement. The brother apologizes to her for not paying attention and hurting her. She is bleeding, appearing to be in her last moments. She speaks about a poison that slowly destroys a person's body. His sister says that she reached her limit after 5 years of being infected. He apologizes to Koyuki for his uselessness, and he laments not having powers, and then says that in that case, Koyuki would not have been poisoned. The young man cries and blames himself, but she states that without this protection, she would not have survived. The injured girl asks to be left there since everything is okay, yet she begs him to survive. While she holds his face, something is sighted in the distance. A hand kidnapped his sister. The protagonist wonders what it is. A demon finds a toy and is very happy, but a man sees a monstrous figure and realizes that it is a high-level demon, and so he wonders why it is there. The demon says that despite her having a pretty face, she will not have much time to live. He asks the monster to release the girl. He says that it is okay because he has no problems with it. The monster throws the girl, then she is attacked and severely injured. The protagonist observes the scene with horror. He shouts angrily at what he did to his sister. After killing the girl, the demon says that it is the boy's turn. The protagonist ensures that he will kill the enemy. He holds one of the debris while threatening a monster. The monster holds the boy's head while asking if he intends to kill him. The dark creature threatens and despises him for being weak. He hurls the protagonist against a building. A young man is lying on the ground bleeding. The demon says that weak humans like the protagonist should be extinct. Amidst flames, the demon tells him to die quickly. A man flees from a fire and shouts desperately for help. The boy lying on the ground wonders why all of this is happening. An enormous monster is surprised because he is still alive and is more resistant than expected. Then a bright red sword appears. The creature holds the bright sword. It wants more fun. Thus, he is attacked by the sword and bleeds a lot but does not scream, and the creature questions the lack of screaming because it must hurt. His face is completely bruised because of the monster. His eyes open and look into the distance. The protagonist is injured and fallen amidst debris. He expresses astonishment and disbelief. There is an angelic figure under the rubble. An angel statue is shown. He says that it looks like something she gave Koyuki a long time ago. 10 years ago, the boy holds an angel statue while wishing his sister a happy birthday. He gives the angel figure into the girl, who is surprised. She thanks him because the present is very beautiful and special, and then he explains that the angel will always protect her. She denies it and he asks why. Koyuki smiles openly and says that it is not an angel who protects her, but her older brother. He is surprised by the statement. They hug and she says that her brother and the angel will always protect her, and the boy, in turn, says that he could not keep his promise. 5 years ago, many monsters appear. The outer area is dangerous because it is full of toxins. The protagonist hurt his leg and complains about bad luck because he is in a difficult situation. He is in the middle of a crowd and seems worried. Again, he trips on another stone. I am starting to think that the protagonist is blind and ends up knocked to the ground. He looks back terrified. A bright red circle appears in the sky and emits smoke. He read this helplessly because of the poisonous cloud. The protagonist falls suffocated. He feels relief because Koyuki left early. Then he says that everything will be alright as long as Koyuki survives. Finally, someone asks him to hold on. His sister appears in front of him desperate. She asks if he is okay, but the protagonist, worried, asks why she returned. Koyuki removes her mask and puts it on him, asking him not to speak and to follow her. He comments that if everything had gone according to plan, she would not have encountered that invasion, but she returned to save him. The protagonist mentions that they escaped the infected area. The sister is bleeding while the protagonist exclaims that she is still infected. The protagonist apologizes for not being able to protect her while he promises that he will be with her soon. The demon complains because he is not receiving anything else and that this is becoming boring. The monster declares that the protagonist must die in blood splatters. The angel statue is shown fallen and bloodied. A wounded archangel appears while a blue ray strikes him, making a digital code fall from the sky. The system announces that it is activating and that it has enabled the initial abilities according to the timeline that was rewound to 5 years ago. Individuals mock the protagonist for not defending himself, calling him weak and fearful. He asks confused what is happening, and if he did not die, while someone asks if he is afraid and calls him a coward. The protagonist is visibly injured and surprised at the same time that his eyes glow purple. He wonders what Chan is doing there when he and his companions approach. The narrator reveals that Chan was the leader of the gang that controlled his city and that they extorted money disguising it as protection fees. The gang guy questions about the protagonist's sister and mentions how weak the infected are. He thinks about his sister while observing other people on the street. The gang guy demands payment in 3 days and threatens the protagonist's sister if he does not comply with his demand. The guy comments that it is no fun fighting the weak while the protagonist wonders if his sister is still alive. One person comments that they got something cheap while another comments about the difficulties in making reservations at that place. The protagonist questions if he is dreaming, if the earth was taken over by demons, and if everything must be destroyed. He questions why everyone is laughing and when was the last time he saw people smiling. He comments about the evacuation 5 years ago when few people were infected. The protagonist mentions that some people awaken special abilities and enter the domains to purify them, diminishing the suffering of humanity. He comments about the end of the world that has already begun even with people living their lives normally. He thinks that he returned 5 years into the past and if he is really alive. The protagonist runs shouting in his thoughts his sister's name. He shouts that she is alive while she sleeps peacefully in her bed, and says that he is not dreaming, that he returned 5 years into the past while his sister continues sleeping. He looks intently. The protagonist observes the date April 21st, 2055, commenting that has been 1 month since his sister has been infected. He questions why he did not return 1 month earlier, because this way he would have avoided his sister's infection. The protagonist observes a holographic message that seems to have information about a mission, and asks who is there, and a system responds that it is the level up system. He questions the level up system and what is happening. The system informs that he is at level 0 and that upon reaching level 99 he will be able to save Earth and humanity. He states that saving Earth is a joke that not even the most powerful would be able to do, and that he without any power is even less likely. The system states that it has unlocked his powers and that he must discover the details alone. The protagonist shouts, surprised at what the system is saying. The system informs that it will start teleportation and that he must prepare himself. A character expresses surprise while being enveloped by a blue energy near his sister. The sleeping girl murmurs her brother's nickname. A screen displays blue geometric shapes over a binary code background. The protagonist is shown falling into a forest, shouts of astonishment and disorientation. He expresses pain and confusion upon falling, questioning about the place where he is. The system informs that the location is a beginner zone suitable for testing his abilities. The protagonist manifests his rejection to the role of savior of humanity and his priority in protecting his sister. The system reveals that the domains contain ingredients necessary to create an antidote, and that the elimination of the domains will be essential for its creation. The protagonist ponders about the antidote for the domain poison, revealing that humanity has not found a cure which caused countless deaths. He questions if leveling up will allow him to save his sister. It is explained that a domain is a temporal barrier that differs from common dimensions and can vary greatly in size. The environment has not undergone changes, and the buildings maintain their original structures. Mutant creatures and magical beings invaded the houses and drastically transformed the conditions of the place. Only awakened individuals with antibodies against the poison can enter the domains. The protagonist questions if he has already awakened because he does not feel any discomfort and wonders what his power is. He expresses indignation at having discovered his power alone through fighting against the magical beasts. The protagonist considers that if the system is right, this is the only way to save his sister. He declares his intention to try to face what is to come even without knowing what to expect. The protagonist hears a strange sound and wonders about its origin. He expresses that something is approaching while walking through the forest. A small animal reacts to spotting something in the grass with sounds of astonishment. He questions about what is happening. A capybara is seen observing the protagonist. He expresses his surprise upon seeing that it is a capybara. He comments that he thought it was a magical beast and that he got scared. He approaches questioning the animal's presence in such a dangerous place and comments about the tranquility with which it feeds. He is seen with wide eyes expressing his astonishment. A capybara is seen devouring another animal. The protagonist questions if capybaras are not herbivores. He thinks that it may be a mutant creature observing it with its red eyes while it devours its prey. He apologizes for interrupting the capybara's meal. He states that he will leave, indicating that he does not want trouble. He thinks that he needs to run as fast as possible from the location. The capybara appears bloodied, observing the protagonist. He remembers that all creatures in the domains can undergo mutations and questions how he could forget that. He trips and falls at the same time that he screams in fright. He encourages himself to get up because if he is found, it will not be good. The sound of footsteps stepping on branches is heard, indicating that something is approaching. He asks, scared, if the sound was caused by him. The protagonist gets up quickly in surprise. Quickly, he looks for something to use as a weapon. He grabs a branch and threatens to use it to attack if necessary. A shadow appears in the woods. The protagonist uses the branch as an improvised weapon for the confrontation. A dark creature emerges behind him. He expresses his surprise upon noticing that the creature did not come from the left as he expected. He screams in pain upon being hit by a violent blow. He tries to fight against the creatures and expresses his frustration that there are two instead of one. The capybaras attack him, biting him and causing injuries while he bleeds. He expresses his difficulty in getting rid of the capybaras and that at this rate they will bite him to death. Desperate, he questions if there is something that he can use to ward them off or distract them. The protagonist pleads for a moment to think. He grabs a branch forcefully. The branch used by the protagonist changes shape, appearing like a whip. He is seen holding capybaras caught in branches using his new strategy. The protagonist uses a magical vine to throw the capybaras away. He questions what is happening. An explosion near the protagonist scares him. He thinks that now is his chance. He picks up a branch from the ground, preparing for another attack. The protagonist prepares to attack, shouting. He observes 2 dead and bloody capybaras. The wounded protagonist whispers that he is finally safe. He expresses that it seems like a dream to have killed 2 creatures alone. He says and thinks that he finally understood what his power is. The system announces the unlocking of the beginner level of detection control. He questions about what this power of sensing control would be. It is explained that many have awakened diverse powers in the last 5 years, such as controlling fire, water, electricity, transforming into beasts, or enhancing senses. He expresses never having heard of a power like his, while a fraction of energy flows. The protagonist realizes that he used a vine to get rid of 2 creatures, and that it started to move on its own. He questions if his power would be to control plants. He dismisses the idea of controlling plants, considering that the screen would have presented different information. He ponders if the control he possesses is greater than he imagines. The protagonist asks to return to his world, and he claims to be injured and that he needs to heal before. The system informs that he cannot leave the domain without destroying the energy core and closing the domain. The protagonist questions if the energy core would be the thing inside the creature or strongest magical beast. He questions if the system is sending him to death while a huge shadow approaches. He looks back, surprised at what he is seeing. The protagonist widens his eyes, terrified. He comes across a giant and furious capybara that stares at him with its teeth bared. The monster opens its mouth, ready to attack, demonstrating its ferocity, and emits a loud roar. The protagonist widens his eyes, entering a state of shock. He exclaims, surprised, asking why there's a giant capybara, and states that it is totally different from the others. The beast growls when something catches its attention, when it observes the smaller dead capybaras. The protagonist questions if that would be the mother of the other 2 animals and declares that his life is over. The capybara screams, preparing for the advance, attacking the protagonist, who manages to dodge the blow narrowly. He thinks that if he is trampled, he will be crushed like an ant. He notices something incredible. The protagonist observes the branches shining, and his hand seems to be interacting with them. He, wounded, says that he will try even in these conditions. He begs for something to help him. He orders for something to move while holding the branches of the branch. The branches move quickly, demonstrating his ability to control them. The protagonist holds the capybara's paws, with the branches demonstrating his new ability. The capybara struggles while the protagonist observes the fight. He exclaims, surprised for having managed to move the vine, and thinks that if he finds a suitable weapon for this power, he may be unbeatable. Branches trap the capybara's paw and it struggles, but they tighten more and more. He exclaims his surprise. The capybara's claws cut the branches. He expresses surprise and frustration. The creature chases the protagonist, who runs and screams in terror. The monster emits a roar at the same time that the protagonist jumps to escape. The protagonist falls to the ground in the middle of a forest after the impact of a fall. The wounded protagonist, bleeding from the mouth, states that the vine is not strong enough to contain the creature. He is lying down, expressing his need for something with greater impact. The wounded protagonist, lying in the forest, plans to lure the creature into the forest while holding a bright branch and bleeding. The capybara screams while a plant created by the protagonist attacks it, causing injuries. He, wounded and with blood on his arm, thinks to himself that he still has time. The protagonist approaches a tree while the capybara screams, indicating his objective. A scenario of a dark and humid forest is presented. The protagonist leans against a tree, demonstrating his reflection on the need to try to make something work. The capybara breaks free from the plant and starts screaming, demonstrating its fury. The protagonist uses his magic on the tree, with golden lights emanating from his hands while touching the trunk. He thinks about controlling the vines as a way to win his fight, but demonstrating he is already exhausted. He notices the approach of the monster and continues trying to use his ability. He clenches his teeth due to his pain while blood runs down his chin and begs for something to move. The capybara looks up, demonstrating its presence in the middle of a verdant forest. Blood gushes from the protagonist's mouth while his widened eyes reflect the horror. He staggers, wounded and bleeding, while panting, expressing his proximity to the limit, but with the thought of his sister who awaits him. The sister asks for soda, and the protagonist agrees, asking her to wait while he goes to get it. He walks through an empty supermarket with empty shelves, demonstrating disappointment at not finding any bottle. The protagonist walks thoughtfully between the empty shelves, planning to look elsewhere. The girl is on the floor with her face hidden in her arms, expressing pain, but trying to remain strong so that her brother does not see her like this. The sister suffers in silence while the protagonist questions about her pain, expressing guilt. He endures the consequences. In the end, things ended up like this. The protagonist remembers his sister telling him to flee from the red monster. She asks her older brother to live while crying. He is very angry and says that he will never let something happen again. The giant capybara with red eyes stares at the wounded protagonist. The imposing creature emerges in the dark forest. He holds a wooden stick firmly. His hand is tense. The background seems to glow magically. Birds fly through the sky. One of them lets out a loud cry. Wounded protagonist says that he hears something. He describes it as the breath of the forest, and says that he feels as if he has become one with it. His blue eyes glow intensely. In the forest, vines shining capture the sunlight. Sun rays pass through the dense foliage. The capybara screams while trying to break free. The animal screamed as it fell. It was trapped by vines. The bleeding protagonist says that he can escape again thanks to the vines. The vine begins to wrap around the animal's neck and squeeze mercilessly. She screams in pain until she can no longer bear it, and then died suffocated by the plants. The protagonist observes the fallen and wounded giant creature. He speaks to himself that he made it. He says to Koyuki, "Brother did it." Blood on the ground. He reports the feat. The protagonist fell to the ground and feels a lot of pain. His whole body hurts. He wonders if this pain is because of having overexerted himself. In the forest, blue crystals attract attention. They say that before disappearing, they randomly transform into some kind of item. He feels lucky. A cube turned into a weapon. Furthermore, he got an energy stone, which he heard is valuable. He seems annoyed. He expresses his frustration. The system informs that he repelled the giant capybara, level calculated, leveled up to level 5, bonus damage recovery. He is stretched out on the grass, with blood visible on his head and hands. He seems to be seriously injured. He was almost fainting, but something happens. The protagonist is surprised because he realizes that his wounds disappeared while he was in the woods. He realizes that upon leveling up, he recovers from damage, questions if such power would save him from critical injuries. Energy core emits energy from a blue crystal on the monster's forehead. The protagonist sees the bright crystal and wonders if it is the energy core that sustains the domain. If it disappears, the domain will also vanish. He saw a bright flower and questioned what that was. A ghostly purple figure floats in test tube labeled Painkailares. Blue energy explodes in the sky and intense power rises over the trees. The protagonist sees painkillers and questions if he can use them on Koyuki. He holds a vial with purple liquid. He remembers that the domain poison causes unbearable pain from its attacks. There is no medicine for this pain. Infected people can only endure it. He is hopeful that the medicine works, thus Koyuki will no longer need to suffer. The system informs that every domain contains organisms with proper leaf pain, initiating level calculation. The backpack function has been unlocked. Now it is possible to store all items there. He asks what the system means by from now on. He questions how he will feel things, and the system responds that the domain will soon disappear along with the energy core. The protagonist asks to wait and questions why he has not yet gotten an answer. He seems impatient. He looks to the side and looks at the flattened grass and asks if it was there that he fainted, wondering what happened there. He returns to his world and questions the reason for having been transferred to the city. He is confused by the sudden change. The protagonist bumps into someone while exclaiming that he has to go home quickly to give medicine to Koyuki. The guy from before shouted angrily. He told him to watch where he was going. The guy sees Ryo and asks if it is him. Ryo apologizes as that he is in a hurry. The guy asks everyone if they heard. He tells that a loser told him to get out of the way, and questions if the other is thinking too highly of himself with an expression of disapproval. The man tries to punch the protagonist, but he dodges. He does not understand anything. The protagonist, level 5, is startled upon noticing that his body acts without his control. He questions what is happening. The guy was angry because his attack was dodged. He said that the guy had nerves of steel for dodging his attack. He shouted that his luck would not last long, but the protagonist dodges again. He is shocked and thinks that it is not imagination. He sees the changes in the air when Cheng attacks. He feels his body lighter and notices that he can react instantly to attacks. He questions if this happened because of leveling up. Ryo asks if his physical abilities improved as a result. Cheng is bellowing furiously. He says that he will crush the protagonist. A man in the background says that the boss is very angry and will kill Ryo. Another guy replies that the boss rules the city and nobody defeats him. The protagonist thinks about the king of the city. He remembers having heard about him before. He remembers that before he was afraid of him, and that he was very scared and terrified. A hand grabbed him while he looked injured. He says that even being big, he is small compared to other monsters. The protagonist stares fixedly with his penetrating eyes. He considers that he is nothing important. The guy attacks the protagonist with a strong punch, but he blocks the attack. He grabs the guy. Everyone is startled by what they have just seen. He grabs Cheng and throws him forcefully to the ground. The guy is on the ground wondering how he was defeated by someone like Ryo. The protagonist declares firmly from now on. With a determined look, he seems ready to act in a mystical scenario. With a fixed and intense look, he declares that it will not be him to be avoided, but the other. He shows confidence. An angry extra asks what they are doing. He orders them to attack him at once. After some time, a lot happened. The group is lying on the ground unconscious. The green guy is on the floor, bleeding. Incredulous, he wonders how the other one is so strong. He noticed a boot and wondered if it was the same person, doubt-lingered about the identity. The protagonist says that he actually won. He seems surprised by the victory, even though he is hurt. He smiled, despite the scratches on his face, and notices that the opponents were not as formidable as he thought. After a while, he returns home. He sees his little sister in bed, writhing in pain. The protagonist watches Koyuki sleeping. He is worried, and his hands are injured. He takes something from the system on a digital blue screen. It seems to be interacting with a futuristic interface. It was the bright pink tube he had gotten before. He is injured and holds the painkiller. He wonders if the medicine will work. The pink liquid is placed in her mouth from the bottle. The girl thrashes even more with the effects of what she just drank, but then the effect seems to pass, making her calmer. The protagonist smiles broadly and says that it worked. He repeats excitedly that it really worked. He asks the system where to find the ingredients for the domain poison antidote. He needs to find them quickly. He was warned that medicinal ingredients are in dangerous areas, and it is risky to go there. Even so, he realizes that he needs to keep evolving. He asks Koyuki if she woke up and how she feels. Koyuki, confused, questions what happened. She finds it strange that her body is weak, but realizes that the constant pain is gone. This new sensation is confusing for her. The protagonist holds his injured sister and speaks excitedly. He is very happy despite the injuries. His sister asks him why he is like that. His face is bruised and he looks hurt. Koyuki gets scared by what she saw. The protagonist's face is quite injured. She looks at his bruised face and asks why he is hurt. After a few minutes, Koyuki asks if the protagonist awakened to power and went to the domain without telling her. She continues, questioning why the boy fought with Chang and his gang after almost dying. The protagonist tells Koyuki not to be angry. He suggests that they eat porridge first. She questions her brother if he was aware of the danger he faced. She states that she did not need the painkillers that much, and she says that she does not want him to put himself in danger, just to get medicine for her pain. Ryo sighs and calls out to Koyuki in a low voice. He says that the changes in the world have already happened. Ignoring it will not solve anything. Now that he has awakened, he needs to face the problems head on to have a chance to survive. The girl looks surprised. She exclaims in doubt if that is her older brother. We see a flashback where the protagonist tells Koyuki that if something happens, they will hide together to stay safe. The girl thinks that he has changed a lot. She asks the protagonist, smiling, if he is not going to stop even injured. He keeps the smile on his face. She asks Ryo to promise to prioritize his safety. No matter what, he replies that yes, he will continue entering the domain to level up. She says that he is her only family and does not want to lose him. Happy, the protagonist says that he promises. He thinks that it is better not to tell Koyuki that the antidote ingredients are in dangerous areas. She asks her brother to feed her porridge. As she is feeling weak, he calls her spoiled. She asks if it is bad, but the protagonist affirms that it is not bad. Someone is holding a pot lid over a lit stove. The flames are high and bright. Lisa is called, and she looks smiling at whoever is calling her. The protagonist invites her to a party in the west region of Guse next week. They will gather awakened people regardless of power. He questions if she is interested. She expresses that she wants to go. Her desire to leave is great and visible. We see a memory, the protagonist being attacked by the monster. He is bleeding from the mouth and looks scared. The demon laughed, asking if that was his full strength. It stated that even with special power, it was not impressive. He speaks with contempt. In the end, you are just trash. He says that he will blow the protagonist's head off next with the sword. A flaming ray cut through, and red splatters stain the surrounding void. His eye is very red and full of veins. He wakes up. It seems that everything was a nightmare. The protagonist is annoyed. He complains about having the same dream again, and reflects on past events and considers the future. He thinks that he may encounter the same person again, or perhaps someone even scarier will cross his path. He watches his sister who is sleeping in bed. He brought medicine from the domain that temporarily relieves pain. Domain poison in Koyuki has not disappeared. The protagonist holds his sister's hand, and their time together will be increasingly shorter. Her body will become weaker. Her hand is injured with scratches. The protagonist affirms that they have not escaped danger yet. He thinks that he needs to prepare to enter the next domain as quickly as possible. He seems determined with the situation. The next day, the city stretched out under the strong sun. The blue sky contrasted with the imposing buildings. He arrives at the fighting hall and is about to enter. The protagonist contemplates the dojo for awakened people. He notes that after evolving, his physical abilities and senses have improved. He remembers the previous fight with humans. He had no technique or strategy, and ended up getting quite hurt as well. But he reflects on his inexperience in fighting and the growing danger. He concludes that with his current abilities, getting hurt is inevitable. He enters the place with a clear purpose. He affirms that he needs to continue to level up to achieve his goals. The protagonist saw the academy crowded. Fighters were training. The place was full of people. He comes across many people and is amazed and wonders if they are all awakened. A man questioned who the stranger was, saying that he had never seen him before. The young man said that he came to learn martial arts. The protagonist thinks that it is incredible to feel the magical power coming from this guy's body, and thinks that this guy probably has a higher level than him. The teacher says that everyone there is awakened. He questions what Ryu's level is. The protagonist is uncertain about the exam results. He thinks that he probably failed. He thinks that the awaken of magic power classes from S to F, and affirms to be level 5, the weakest, class F. The teacher informed that the fee for class F is 10,000 yen per month, with a 10% discount for a 3-month prepayment. He asked to pay the fee first, and then he would arrange a trainer. The protagonist questions the teacher if the amount could be lower. Then he seems surprised by his own question. He looks back and is surprised by another woman smiling and says that he can make the payment there. After a while, he thought how good it was to exchange the domain energy stones before. Without that, it would be impossible to pay the high fee. Someone arrives and asks if he is Ryo. He turns to look at who it was, but he is surprised to see Lisa introduces herself and says that she will be his trainer, which makes him blush intensely. He stammers when he realizes that it is a girl. The girl expressed her indignation, She affirmed that she should not be underestimated just for being a woman. Girl attacks boy quickly and grabs him by the clothes. He looks scared by the onslaught. Noticing the impressive speed of his opponent, he widens his eyes in surprise. Saying that she is too fast, he is clearly impressed. The girl holds him by the throat. The girl immobilizes the boy on the mat and holds him firmly. She confronts him from above, asks if he understands the level difference. She wants to know if he realizes the difference in skill, and asks what happened for someone to stare at her like that. She questions if there is something on her face. The protagonist looks at her and says that she looks familiar. He cannot remember where he knows her from. The girl asks if Ryo is trying to flirt with her. The girl warns that she will not make it easy and introduces herself as one of the elite fighters of the place, and he screams in pain. Ryo questions why someone so skilled is training him who is weak, which leaves the girl perplexed, and questions if the trainer was selected as a second option because others did not want to train him. She tells Ryo that he seems distracted, but is smart. He asks if he really seems distracted. The girl explains that she is also from Class F. She observes that most of the awakened are from Classes D or C. She remembers that the level difference was big. Even with her martial arts skills, she could not beat a Class D, and that she is always stuck doing tasks such as cooking meals and other things. The girl says to be grateful because now she will have the chance to train someone from Class F. She explains that the opportunity finally arises because there is another student like him. She remembered they were gathering members for a party in the Gu's domain next Friday, inviting him to join them. The girl says that it is a rare opportunity and that she will check if she can take the protagonist with her while he speaks, asking to wait a minute. Ryo is visibly annoyed. He thinks that she is not paying attention to him. He thinks why he feels like he has seen her before and questions himself about this sudden familiarity. He feels a strong recognition, then he realizes it is Lisa, there is no doubt, and thinks impressed Lisa is the strongest Class S fire awakened. He is amazed by her strength. He questions why she is now in Class F. He seems confused by the situation. She was a Class S fire awakened, world famous. Her flaming power was feared and unmatched. She manipulated flames and was skilled in physical combat. She attacked a dark creature with blazing fire. It was said that her group never lost. Lisa was strong, but even so, one day she died for an unknown reason. He thought about Lisa. Who would have thought that strong Lisa would die? He watched Lisa and the instructor in the dojo. He remembered that strong Lisa would die and wondered if she had ever been treated that way before. He reflected on the treatment Lisa received at some point. The teacher rejects Lisa for being Class F, affirming that they already have enough members. He is unaware of Lisa's past as a powerful Class S fire awakened. The girl questions if the event should not be open to all levels. She argues that more people will be safer and offers to help as rearguard. Teacher tells Lisa to join, saying that more people is better. The protagonist interrupts, complaining that they always go without him, while the girl thanks the teacher for including them. The protagonist complains that he did not even have time to refuse, questions why nobody listens to what others say. He says that he needs to enter a domain to evolve, and considers that with other people around, it will be safer and perhaps the right decision. He remembers that next week, in addition to taking care of Koyuki, he would serve the food, and that he focused entirely on training in the fighting hall and was focused on his training there. Lisa and the protagonist were fighting in the fighting hall. She attacked the protagonist with a punch. She attacked the protagonist with a kick to the arm. He says surprised that Lisa is amazing and did not know that she was so strong after the kick to the arm. The girl tells the protagonist that he is already finished and calls him weak. The protagonist says that he needs to wait to catch his breath and asks for 5 minutes, so she agrees and that she will also get water. He thinks who would have thought that one day he would train with Lisa, even being Class F, and that her combat techniques are already high level. He thought of something. A surprise level up occurred. There is a reason for this, just like before. The protagonist thinks that they say that almost dying awakens a second power. Strong awakened beings like Lisa are rare in the world. Despite being Class S, Lisa will die in 1 year, and considers that Lisa's second awakening must happen soon. He wonders if he could advance her awakening. Visibly struggling, he wonders if he could advance her awakening while a blue energy surrounds him. The system warns him it is forbidden to talk about the future as it would cause unforeseen chaos. After the warnings, he starts to feel pain. While blue energy surrounds him, he seems to understand the restriction. He gets scared, grabbed, he feels pain in his neck. But the girl delivers a high kick while the protagonist is about to be hit, but blocks the girl's high kick. She is surprised as her kick was easily blocked by the protagonist. She was not expecting this defense. He complained that Lisa attacked him by surprise and that it is cheating. She reminded that 5 minutes had already passed and demanded to be called master. Lisa told the protagonist to hurry up and continue training, and he replied confirming that he understood, calling Lisa master. She showed herself surprised as the protagonist could not dodge before, but now he's blocking her attacks, and realized that Ryo's growth rate was abnormal, but said that, unfortunately, he was also Class F like her. The place seemed to be a garden with a building in the background. The building looked like a hangar amidst sunny trees. A guy explaining that it was the entrance to the domain. The other character thought that it just looked like a common building. He said that yes, that you could not tell from the outside, and continued talking that the domain extends deep inside the tunnel. He emphasized the vastness of the place. The group questions if it is really safe for a Class E like him to enter that place and ask if he is sure of the safety and what dangers might be inside. But the guy, annoyed, complained about Classes E and F, said that if they want the domain spoils, they better prepare for danger. The knight said that it is all right, they have the crystal orb to detect the magic levels in the domain, explained that the orb will darken as the concentration of magic energy increases, alerting them to danger. The knight said that the orb barely shines, indicating safety in the domain, affirmed that if Classes E and F stay together, they will face any danger. The annoyed guy said not to worry, even if there is a mutant creature, he and Jin will take care of it. The protagonist heard about the crystal orb, which is of high quality and needs many top energy stones to be made. The protagonist thinks that Kai must have experience in domains, but questions himself if it will be simple. The others are excited to enter the domain and follow Kai. Lisa asks Ryo if he is afraid to enter his first domain, and he confirms that he has never entered before. She affirms to be his master and protector, saying to relax, she will protect him. In the cave, the knight leads with a torch, the group follows among mushrooms. Lisa noticed shiny mushrooms everywhere and commented. The protagonist then supposed that they would be mutant species. He widened his eyes, scared mutation was lethal. The knight alerts with the torch to prepare for battle as something is coming. He spots red lizards and says not to be afraid, as they should be able to defeat them easily. But a lizard attacked Lisa. But the protagonist defended himself from the lizard's attack with energy. The lizard was defeated and now lay in a pool of blood amidst shiny mushrooms. He asks Lisa if she's okay. But when he looks at her, the girl was very scared. It is noticeable that Lisa is trembling. Then he asks Lisa if she is okay. She hesitantly says that she is okay. Jin questions Lisa for being scared of a lizard and where her enthusiasm went. He even compares her with the protagonist beside her, saying that he is more useful. He tells Lisa that besides being low class, she has no courage and still asks why she came to the domain. Questioning if she came to embarrass herself, Lisa apologizes. The protagonist realizes that this guy despises low-class awakened people. White asks Jin to stop because Lisa is entering the domain for the first time. It is normal to be scared. Then Jin says that it is the truth. The knight tells Lisa not to worry, as when he entered the domain for the first time, he was chased by wolves and ended up in the mud. Lisa asks if it is true, and he confirms. The knight tells her to relax and that he will not let her get hurt. The protagonist thinks that he does not look down on them. He is kind and reliable, as expected of a leader. The group is near the fire. They feel safe together. The knight says that the path divides, so they will separate into pairs to explore. He says not to worry, the color of the crystal has not changed, so it is safe inside, and tells them to return in 1 hour if they do not find an energy core. The group realizes that the domain is not as bad as they thought, and that if it is just red lizards, they can handle them and complete today's mission. She hears about the red lizards and ponders if they will be able to complete today's mission. The protagonist calls Lisa to go together. They will explore in pairs. Jin says that Kai is too nice to them and criticizes the excessive kindness. He says, of course, everyone is his valuable colleague after all. The protagonist fights against a monster. He attacks the bleeding monster while Lisa is behind. She says that she is not afraid of the monster and that she is okay. But the monster bellows, while Lisa continued to show fear. But at that moment, she sees something beside her. The protagonist attacks the wounded creature with his sword. Blood runs on the ground. The girl sits observing the situation, very scared. She says that she cannot do it. She feels too weak. She thinks she is useless and will not survive in a domain. The protagonist said that this was not true for girl. He continued saying that girl would adapt soon and would be able to win, and told Lisa that she would become stronger than anyone. He told her not to give up and to believe in herself and told her to believe in herself. Then Lisa thanked him for the encouragement. She said that Ryo was braver than her. He said that he was also scared, but he had a reason to be strong. He decided that he would not run away, no matter the fear. Lisa asked if he had a reason to be so strong. He confirmed and said that Lisa should also have one. The protagonist asked if her reason was to have more chances to fight with Kai. At this, she blushes. She reacts confused to the protagonist's question, asks what he is saying. He affirms that Kai is perfect and understands her liking him, while the girl says that Kai treats everyone fairly, unlike others. Only that. Scene changes to the giant blue mushrooms that emerge imposingly as magic transforms the environment. Ryo is questioned about what is happening. He responds worried that something is coming. A giant threatening red plant emerges, but she falls face down on the ground while they watch. Ryo asks what a carnivorous plant would be doing there, while Lisa comments that she does not look strong. The girl asks Ryo to let her take care of it. He asks Lisa to wait a second. She asks what is wrong. Ryo says that he does not know, but he has a bad feeling. He says that there is something terrifying about that plant. His instincts say not to approach. He tells Lisa to move away and watch from afar, asks not to get close to the plant. Lisa asks why, and he does not know how to explain, but his instincts tell him to stay away. Lisa then understood and said, "Understood." She confirmed that she understood the instructions. The plant trembles strangely. Intense red lights appear, then explodes. After the explosions, the woman is shocked, asking where the man-eating plant disappeared. The protagonist realizes that the plant has disappeared. However, the terrifying presence still persists. He asks Lisa to wait a little longer there and not to move. Lisa agrees. After waiting a little longer, the protagonist says that the terrible presence seems to have disappeared. Soon after, someone screams. He recognizes the voice and says that it is the class E from their group, then asks what happened. Lisa asks Ario what is happening and about the others. He thinks that if the scream was real, they found a terrifying beast. Ario wonders if it could be a stronger beast or something different, and that there is something strange in that domain. She asks what to do. She thinks that they will be okay with Kai and Jin. But before she continues, the protagonist covers her mouth and asks for silence. He says that that terrifying presence is back, thinking if the man-eating plant appeared again. Kai and Jin behind the stone observe. She silence whispers that it is Kai and they are safe. Relieved, she warns about the safety for the protagonist. Then we see Jin saying that everyone died and collected information. Only 2 remain. Kai agrees and says that confirming bodies they can return. The girl widens her eyes and does not understand what is happening. Kaie proceeds alerting about the problematic mutant creature, as it is dangerous and kills instantly if careless. However, he observed that cave beasts stay quiet after killing prey, noting this on a previous visit. Being praised for the cleverness of using others as bait for the mutant creature, and he agrees that it was great that everyone fell for the plan. He declares that classes E and F are useless trash, and therefore they're only used as bait for the mutant creature. Furthermore, he questions this. Thus, Kai deceived everyone to be bait. Then one of them realized that he was used by Kai, and understood why all classes were brought. They fell for the plan. Lisa questions herself, wondering the reason behind Kai's actions. She remembers when he praised her physical abilities, as he tells her not to demean herself for being low class. Furthermore, he affirms that no one can beat her. He used to say to be surprised that even a class F can contribute in a domain. Lisa realizes that everything was a lie because Kai's words about her abilities and potential were false, and therefore she feels deceived and disillusioned, since the truth hit her heart. Meanwhile, Kai asks surprised why there are no bodies there. They question themselves if they were eaten. Jim, surprised, asks if someone angered the mutant creature and affirms that it has never happened before, with Kai seeking to understand the reason. Meanwhile, the nearby mushrooms release something. When red eyes appear behind the two, they look back, then one of them asks what that is. A monster with red eyes appears. However, one of them notices a supersonic attack, soon alerts to be careful as it was not common. Thus another complains, since he thought that they would be calm. But the protagonist questions because before it was a carnivorous plant and now it is a giant bat, thus he is confused. The protagonist questions where the carnivorous plant disappeared. However, meanwhile, Jin decides that he will kill that thing because he is furious. Kai tells him to wait. Furthermore, warning not to rush. The demon holds Jin's punch and punches him in his stomach, throwing him backwards, making him be thrown into a stone. The punch had pierced him and the demon had ripped out his heart, then tries to attack Kai with a sonic attack, but he uses an ice ability. The protagonist saw the ice ability and was surprised and questioned if freezing a bat so quickly would be class C power, since he witnessed it. Kai mocks and says that after all he is not so tough after all, but the demon breaks the ice, and attacking Kai in the chest, piercing him. The guy is thrown far away, and falls near the protagonist and Lisa. He sees Lisa in front of him. The girl continued scared, the tears remained, thus completely shocked. The protagonist covers her eyes, preventing her from seeing that terrible scene. He asks for calm, because otherwise they would die there in that place. Soon after, he ponders if he is missing something important in that domain, and then questions why Kai's and his groups encounter different beasts. However, he wonders if that is real or illusion. He notices mushrooms shining and then questions when they started to shine. Furthermore, he shows himself surprised with this sudden change in that domain. He sees mushrooms again and then questions if it would be hallucination. Ryo asks Lisa if she can burn those mushrooms with her fire because he needs it, and Lisa replies that she can do that. Protagonist questions if mushrooms, plant, and giant bat were hallucinations. However, the wounds are real, therefore there is a mutant creature in the cave. Thus, protagonist ponders if he should burn the source of the hallucinations. In this way, he seeks to solve the problem. He says that, in this way, maybe he will see the real form of the creature. As the protagonist observes the giant creature, it reveals itself as a purple snake with a bright eye. The girl questions what she sees, then the protagonist reveals to be the true form of the monster and explains that before it looked different because of the mushrooms. Then, realizing something, exclaims surprised that that even has an energy core. If the girl realizes that, apparently, is returning to the nest, then she suggests that they take advantage of this opportunity to flee. But suddenly, a purple explosion hit them head on. However, the protagonist quickly protected the girl from the strong impact with his body, since it was a sudden and powerful attack that surprised them. The purple snake surges and threatens. Soon, it prepares to attack, while the protagonist and the girl observe the danger. Lisa questions if that should not calm down after killing people, because it seems strange that it had not calmed down yet. Thus, the protagonist thinks that maybe it only calms down when killing everyone in the area. The snake, furious, continued advancing. But the snake advanced furiously, but misses the attack and they ran to escape from it. Ryo was relieved and says that it was close, since he managed to escape from the furious snake that missed the attack. Aryo was hit head-on by the purple energy snake. Aryo says that he is annoyed that they saw the hallucination and says that it seems that they will not be able to avoid the confrontation. He analyzes the critical situation, because they need to destroy the energy core to close the domain or they will die and become food. After all, these are the only options. He warns Lisa that he will control the vines to trap the snake, then asks her to set fire as soon as possible, because the snake is strong and it is necessary to be fast. However, Lisa says that she cannot do that because there is no way for her to succeed. He still warns Lisa that therefore, if they do not do that, they will die there, because the situation is of life or death, and affirms that there is no other choice for them, because they are in danger, therefore they must follow the risky plan. In this way, they will try to survive the imminent threat. He saw vines, then imagined that if he reached them, they would escape, then he would try to reach them. She shouted to be careful because a danger was approaching fast. He is hit by the giant energy snake. The protagonist fell so that he is face down among vines and branches. Despite bleeding from the mouth, the protagonist tries to reach the vine with his injured hand desperately, and then extends his arm towards the firm vine. But suddenly the giant snake surges, and in this way reveals a basic level of sensory control. He, in this way, calls Lisa immediately after all danger still persists. She must set fire to the vine, because she was encouraged to do that, but is terrified. That the protagonist had said that he is also scared, however he has a reason to become stronger. Thus, even terrified, he decided that he will not run away. She had said that, as an awakened, it is her responsibility to enter and close a domain soon. She must do what she can for that. Then, Lisa says that she did not come to be afraid, and even being scared, she will not back down now, because she must close the domain as an awaken, thus she proceeds. The vines were crushing the snake, while the girl used fire magic to finish off the monster. And the girl had just used fire magic to finish off the monster, then, victorious, she exclaims that they did it. With this, the protagonist realized that something was wrong. After all, the creature should not have reacted like that after being burned. With this, the purple creature advanced furiously against Lisa, biting her forcefully and blood spreads. The pain is visible. The protagonist is worried about Lisa after the bite. He stared at the giant purple snake, however the creature surged after his worry while he watched the threatening monster from below and Lisa in its mouth. He despairs and exclaims what he did wrong while staring at that scene. However, a strong purple light surges from inside the snake. He noticed the purple light because it was the same as the mushrooms, thus he asked if the snake would also be an illusion. The giant purple serpent stares at Lisa, fallen, its mouth is open in threat. At that moment, the protagonist jumps on top of it. The protagonist landed on it as impact sounds echo around. He finds something, but he loses his balance and falls off the giant purple creature. He continues falling at high speed. He understood something about its true form, and he has blood dripping from his mouth. He realizes that it is not for nothing that burning did not work. He prepares to attack with the sword. He realizes that the enemy's body is made of stone, so he says that no weapon can damage it. He is thrown away again, and says that he will not give up no matter what. He is at the beginner level of sensory control. He continues surprised and bleeding. But now he wonders if it could be that there is magic flowing inside the giant snake's body. Saying that must be the giant snake's weak point, he asks if he is right. He has to jump there, but it is moving too fast. The serpent goes in the direction of the protagonist and observes the situation without knowing what to do. Lisa questions why he did not run away even though their attack failed. She wonders if it could be Ryo. She remembers a scene of them fighting. In the fight, the protagonist is almost hit by the blow, but the girl does not complete the attack. She asks Ryo what he is doing, and she seems very angry. He says that he was just dodging the attacks. He adds that if one of those kicks hit, he would go straight to the hospital. She complains that Ryo dodged 3 attacks in a row and asks if that is bad, but he questions if dodging is bad, and she responds that of course it is. Lisa tells him that he should defeat her. She complains that if Ryo keeps dodging and running, he will never be able to beat her. Lisa continues advising Ryo. She states that you cannot run away from a strong enemy. She explains that Ryo needs to counterattack to survive. She says that even in this situation, Ryo does not give up. He attacks the rocky enemy. Ryo continues shouting that it is not over yet. He is pulled back by his vines. The snake's muzzle vine tightens even more. The sound of tightening intensifies. The protagonist continues attacking as he jumps on top of the snake's mouth. He jumps into the air with the knife in hand to attack the serpent, determined to land the blow, and says that since he leveled up, his physical abilities have steadily increased. He also mentions that he has been doing basic training with Lisa, and remembers Lisa saying that today's goal is 2,000 repetitions. He asks if that is not abuse. He holds a purple crystal and says that is all it is. He says that it is a piece of cake and continues confident in his position on purple rocks. The protagonist continues confident and says that the giant snake's weak point is underneath. He sticks the sword into the serpent and starts trying to cut it. In sequence, he found the correct location and starts to press even deeper with all his strength. Then the stone serpent screams and begins. And then the area was completely shattered, pieces flew in all directions. And the protagonist is launched into the air by the force of the explosion. He falls in the middle of the debris. He survived the explosion and celebrates having succeeded. A system text appears, saying that he defeated the giant snake and leveled up. After defeating the giant snake and leveling up, he finds a bright blue crystal. He seems surprised by the find. A golden cube appears, yellow energy swirls around, it might be something important. He sees the golden cube and questions if that is an energy stone, then thinks about how much he could earn selling it. He reaches out to pick up the shiny cube, continues thinking about the profit from selling the stone. The protagonist absorbs the knowledge of the newly acquired psychic attack. The skill has a 6-hour cooldown. He notices a new skill, a flame in his hand. He wonders if it arose from an energy core, but decides to research about it later. Now, he needs to take Lisa to the hospital. Ryo asks her if she is okay, however she just groans in pain, then he tells her to get out of there quickly. Lisa tells Ryo that she thinks she cannot take it anymore. He encourages her, saying that she will be world famous, but Lisa thinks it seems like a dream. Continuing the conversation, Lisa tells Ryo that she is feeling cold. She asks him to hug her tightly. Ryo hugs her tightly and continues to encourage her, saying that it is not a dream. He asks Lisa to believe in him and stay with him. Lisa tells Ryo that she is feeling warm. She thanks him and says goodbye. Continuing, Ryo says that he will not let anyone he loves die in front of him again. He promises to save her. Ryo swears that he will save her. The system informs that basic skills have been unlocked. Continuing, Ryo seems surprised and questions if this skill could be. A golden liquid flows intensely, seeming to be the skill that surprised Ryo. Ryo hugs the girl while the golden liquid continues to envelop them. The girl is enveloped by bright golden liquid. The effect of the skill begins to take effect. Ryo asks Lisa how she feels. She groans in pain, showing that she is not well. But suddenly he finally opens his eyes. The sight of the hospital impacts him forcefully. His eyes widen even more, demonstrating the shock, and shouts for Lisa desperately. He tries to reach her in the hospital. He is in the hospital and asks confused why he is there and who brought him, and realizes that he does not remember anything. Still confused, he questions if Lisa's return was a dream. He seems worried, then runs towards the door, but suddenly feels dizzy and questions what is happening. Upon opening the door, says that he has to look for Lisa, but he finds her as soon as he opens the door. She asks why Ryo got up since he is weak and needs to rest, but he hugs her, relieved that she is safe. Then he gets scared of what he just did. He continues saying that he is very sorry, but Lisa responds that it is okay and for him not to worry. Ryo asks if he fainted after that. But the girl says that when she woke up, all her injuries were healed. However, Lisa calls out for Ryo, who is lying down. She asks what happened. She says that they need to get out of here first. Lisa says that he is too heavy. She feels difficulty. She looks at the bodies around, but leaves them behind. Ryo apologizes. The exit was far and it must have been difficult to support him while walking. She asks not to worry, because she shouted, "Hug me tight," when she felt like she was going to die and remembered that you hug her, Ryo. But this conversation makes them both blush non-stop. He blushes and explains that she said she was cold, so he did it to warm her up. She thanks him for being warm and seems embarrassed. She asks if Ryo used a healing skill on her and says she did not know that he had an incredible skill. He suddenly remembers that vitality transfer is his second skill. He thinks that maybe he fainted when using the skill as a side effect for spending his energy, then feels that he is forgetting something important. He talks about how, despite many deaths, the government did nothing. Lisa recounted that she was questioned in the hospital, explained everything about Kai in classes E and F. But the government dudded it. However, they did autopsies of the bodies. Autopsies confirmed the deaths were by mutant creatures, unrelated to them. The protagonist says that the government concluded that Senior Kai and Senior Jin died fighting a mutant creature. He said that they survived by luck. She questioned why it had not been mentioned. Lisa said that if they discovered that a Class F defeated a mutant alone, it would cause a big problem. Furthermore, she praised his healing and said it was better to keep it a secret. Ryo thanked her and reinforced the secret, and thinks that revealing his reincarnation and level system would cause a great uproar. He says that the government would monitor him if they found out. Furthermore, in the apocalyptic era, he must be careful not only with the government, but also with evil groups. Lisa questions why he is distracted suddenly, asks the reason for his distraction. Lisa says that she exaggerated by saying that she would never mention that again, even thinking about hypnotizing herself. He calmed her down, stating that she was special to him. The girl seems surprised and is shocked by this sudden statement. He says that it was not his intention to say that. The girl tells him to rest for now and informs him that she will go to the fighting ring. Ryo asks if they did something to him in the ring and questions if Senior Kai and Senior Jin hurt them. The girl says that everything is alright, explaining that everyone was surprised, but they were angry with those two anyway. Ryo says that is good then, and Lisa at the door tells him not to worry, because she will be back tomorrow. Upon leaving the room, she becomes disheartened, probably because the subject still bothers her. The next day, we see a giant building. Someone explains the details of the recent incident in the domain. This is the summary of the situation. Another person questions how 2 Class F survived and 2 Class C died. He doubts that it was just luck and wonders how the officials believe this. He asks if his intuition has ever been wrong and orders them to investigate them. Back at the protagonist's house, he explains that he did not want to worry Koyuki, therefore he was discharged early. Upon returning, Ryo's sister sees him and excitedly says, "Big brother." He is hugged, while the girl says that she is very happy that he is safe. He notices that he may have increased his level, because his combat wounds and use of abilities healed completely in less than a month. He ponders about this rapid recovery. Afterward, he says that he acquired a psychic attack ability in the last fight and also unlocked his second basic ability, Vitality Transfer. He mentions the details of the abilities. The system explained Vitality Transfer beginner level, which moves vitality from living beings to the target to heal. Depot rejoiced he will be able to heal if injured and if he has living beings nearby. Ryo thinks about selling this. He should try to sell it. They can be sold to specialized government institutions, however, to avoid drawing too much attention, but he prefers to use the black market. The protagonist wants to sell an energy stone. The place, even without apocalypse, seems ordinary. The buyer asks him to write the account number on the paper. The protagonist takes the pen and writes it down. He asks if the deposit has already been made into the account that he wrote. Upon seeing the bank account on his cell phone, he is astonished by the balance. And he saw on the display the message that 50 million yen were deposited. He was astonished by the balance. Astonished by the balance, he is very surprised. He questions if there is an error in the balance, but she states that the stone he brought was valuable. She continues asking if he does not want to sell, then offers a refund instead. Then he says that it is okay, thanking her very much. He thinks that with so much money, he will no longer worry financially. He will be able to have a better place and new appliances. He imagines what he can do with all that money. Then he thinks that Koyuki will love the place. And he realizes that money will be useless in the apocalypse, so he decides that he needs to improve his abilities to get Koyuki's medicine. The saleswoman shows an open box. Inside, a shiny sword rests. It seems to be very special. She shows the magic sword, explains that it is elemental and that it increases attack and speed. He sees a warning on the door. The warning says that the fighting hall has changed. And realized that the fighting hall had changed. However, Lisa had not mentioned anything about this. He realized that his sensory ability has become stronger and feels an intense murderous intent coming from inside. Lisa swears that it is true. She is fallen and desperate. Someone shouted angrily, accusing her of being a liar, threatened to burn Lisa right there. But the punch misses and hits the floor of the place. That the guy does not understand what happened. Lisa asks Ryo the reason for him being there, while she questions if she is alright. He said that it was a lie about the attitude, questioned if it was true. She apologizes to Ryo, saying that she did not want him to worry. She seems repentant. The guy aggressively asks who he is. Another character says to Senior Goda that Ryo entered when he was out. He is from Class F and entered with Senior Kai. The guy asks if they're the two who framed Senior Kai and killed him. He says that the timing is perfect. Other students realize that Ryo is from Class F. His power is vine manipulation. He mocks and suggests that he should be a gardener. Ryo tells Lisa to stay and rest. She asks what the protagonist will do. He tells Lisa not to worry and states that he will resolve everything. The initial levels were inaccurate, but they were registered with the government. The data is in a bank for awakeners to find allies. He recalls that the last time he was there with Lisa, he was Class F, however now he must have a much higher level. He is in the place with others of Class D and C. Before he was Class F, now he demonstrates a higher level. Ryo challenges the others with a bet, because he does not want to be treated as weak. If he wins, they stop bothering Lisa. One of them asks if Ryo wants to fight, calling him crazy, but the protagonist questions if he is afraid. This makes the guy angry. He says to do it quickly, but without easing up on them, and responds without resentment. No matter how injured he gets, then the protagonist agrees without problems. The other students threaten about attitude. Another questions if Class F thinks it can win. A third asks if it is serious. A fourth says that Senior Goda is stronger than Senior Kai. Lisa says that Ryo does not act impulsively, so he must have a plan to challenge, and questions if Class F can beat Class C. The Class C member says that with a Class F like him, veteran Goda does not even need to act. He himself will defeat him. Ryo responds to go ahead and try. He wields the shiny sword. The other guy says that he will show the power of a Class D awakened, but the protagonist dodges. Ryo's opponent dodges agilely from the attack. The fight continues intensely. The guy hits the wall with the blow. The guy questions if he is a strength awakener, and asks if he will continue running away. He seems irritated. But the protagonist responds that of course he is not running away, he is only. And he responds that he is only waiting for the right opportunity. But his blow is interrupted by the adversary. However, he says that the protagonist's speed may be good, but not enough to defeat him. Lisa says that the difference between awakened classes is not something easy to overcome. She mentions that Ryo is fast, but if they stop him, it will be difficult for him to counterattack. Ryo asks if they thought he was just fast. He continues saying that he has more abilities, and states that he has already leveled up, showing that he has more abilities. The guy is surprised, blood runs from his nose, showing the shock with the new abilities. Anne is thrown far away. The girl is surprised, she did not expect that. The strange mouth guy is surprised that a class F defeated a D with one blow. He wonders if it was the knife or a special item. Ryo shouts victory. He asks for the next one to come. At that moment, Io says that if anyone is confident in speed, then try to catch him while someone comes from behind. He turns to the enemy. Then Ryo tries to cut him, but the cut passes through. The guy is right there and cuts the protagonist's face. He asks how Ryo intends to win if he cannot even locate him. He causes another cut and says that now is his chance to back down. He speaks with conviction. The hideous face guy tells Ryo to kneel and beg, and maybe he will let them go. The protagonist realizes that the enemy is not only fast, but teleports. This makes it very difficult to locate him. He boasts about the detection, saying he sees more, but the ugly one called him stubborn, and creates a pink energy ball. He then, seeing the target with blue energy, exclaims that he found it. People were talking about what he was doing, and questioned if that was some kind of reckless attack. Lisa realizes that it was not the target, and exclaims that it was not that. The ugly one is attacked and exclaims no way. He reacts with disbelief to the attack. He falls in pain on the ground, screaming in pain. Ryo said that this was the second time, one more victory for him. People are shocked. They question how Class F beat Classes D. They suspect that the knife has some special function. Then the strange mouth guy appears and finds things interesting, saying that no item surpasses the difference in power. He advances and mocks that Class F is an ant near C. He emphasizes the difference in power. The strange mouth guy continues, and a blue energy attack hits Ryo head-on. He says that he cannot dodge. The guy says that he is not finished yet. He throws the protagonist through the wall. Lisa screams for Ryo, but he says that he is strong. There is no comparison with those two Class Ds. The guy continues talking, telling Ryo to know his place, insulting him, calling him Class F trash. The protagonist realizes the blow coming, but manages to dodge the attack that hits the ground. He comments about the last attack. If it had hit, he possibly would have lost. The guy laughs and questions if Ryo really believes that he can continue dodging the attacks forever. He seems confident in his speech. Ryo is almost hit by the attack, showing that he would not dodge forever. He realizes that the situation is not good and needs to find the enemy's weakness quickly. Ryo thinks about what his weakness is. The guy holds the blue attack and asks if Ryo is losing hope. The blue attack intensifies with powerful sounds of impact and explosion, demonstrating its strength. The protagonist says that the last attack was almost as strong as the first. He wonders if it is the first attack again. He notices his body in the last attack. He connects this to attacks 1 and 5. Continuing, he mentions that his body was full of power in that last attack, unlike the other attacks, and questions if the attacks have different strength. He realizes that his magic power is weakening after the last attack. Continuing his reasoning about the next attack, he thinks that if he is right, the next attack should be. Then, confident, the guy laughs and declares that it is time to end this. However, he shows surprise at something. The guy questions if Ryo has lost his mind and why he is not dodging. Ryo realizes that the power of the blows is weaker, then thinks that he will be able to survive. The guy sees Ryo shining in flames and is amazed by that. He is amazed and wonders how someone from Class F can have such a strong murderous intent. With the energy, the guy slips and falls on the wooden floor. A blade of light almost hits him, and he becomes terrified. Ryo declares victory, but the guy questions the insanity of the opponent's reckless attack. Ryo retorts, stating that he is only trying to survive. He questions if Classes C and D have ever risked their lives in a real fight before. He states that they are the truly weak ones there, and is confident in his position. The guys shout, "Damn you," and tell Senior Goda to take him down for good. They seem furious. Lisa warns him of something dangerous. He reacts shocked to the warned danger. He dodges to defend himself and acts quickly, but is surprised by an attack on his back, falling towards the ground. He ends up being hit by the blue energy from the other guy, angry. He is hit by the blue energy. The other guy, angry, attacks in the background. The energy envelopes him. The guy is angry and questions who called him weak. He tells them not to think too much of themselves for fighting a little. Angry, she screams, "Ario!" It seems a reaction to what happened. But the man tells Lisa that this is their fight. An observer should not interfere. Lisa expresses her anger, saying that the fight was supposed to be one-on-one. She questions if it is not cowardice to attack a Class F alone with 3 people. Guy asks if he is cowardice. The teacher tells everyone that they are fighting fairly. The strange mouth guy said that he does not kill, but sometimes in awakened fights, exaggerating and seriously hurting someone by accident is easy. Ryo thinks that he has to use the psychic attack. The system announces ability used psychic attack. The man reacts surprised. Surprised, the man asks what is happening and where Ryo went. At that moment, the giant serpent appears. Its eyes shine menacingly. Ryo reveals the giant snake that killed Senior Kai. One bite and you are done for. The guy starts to feel like he is being devoured and screams desperately. He continues to scream desperately, asking them not to approach him and to stay away, and continues to scream, asking for help. He begs for someone to help him. Lisa questions why Senior Goda suddenly released him. She thinks that his reaction was if he had seen something terrifying. The other 2 students do not understand what is happening with Senior Goda. Ryo thinks about the psychic attack. He says that it is much stronger than he imagined. The students saw Senior Goda injured and asked what they did to him, then said that he would not forgive him. The protagonist realized that his body was not moving. He said that he had never tried that before, but he would use this ability. He realized that his detection ability became stronger after waking up in the hospital, so he trained with trees and the ground to hear their breathing. He punched the floor hard, an explosion of yellow energy arose from the impact. The people there are scared by the sound. They remain perplexed by what happened. They flee because someone screams scared, tells them to get out of there. A sound echoes, a student scared as he is hit by golden energy. He injures himself and exclaims surprised by the attack. But the protagonist hits another student with golden energy, while the teacher and Lisa watch the scene scared. Ryu explains about fights and errors of strength that cause injuries. He asks if Senior Gota said that. He hits a blow on the guy's shoulder. He receives a blow to the shoulder and ends up bleeding, and is thrown to the ground almost dead. The system announces level 15 and domain released. He says that it is good. Lisa runs and hugs him, who is injured. She says that she was very worried for a moment, but he responds that he is fine and alive. Lisa cries out because he is injured and she hugs him, worried as before. He apologizes to Lisa, saying that he feels dizzy. She responds that it is okay and he can lean on her. The teacher asks how a rookie defeated Senior Gota. A student comments about Senior Gota being one of the best fighters. Then he questions if Ryo is really from Class F. Another student doubts that the tremor was caused by Gota, finding it impossible. A third is amazed to learn that a Class F defeated Classes C and D, and 3 of them. Someone in the background thinks that the president was right. Ryo is not an ordinary person. He needs to report immediately. Ryo wondered if that was imagination. He thought he saw something, but he was not sure. He reflected if it was real. He felt something strange coming from there. It was unusual. Asura shouts angrily and asks what they think they are doing, destroying the fighting hall. Ryo asks who that is, and Lisa responds that it is the owner of the fighting hall and that he rarely appears. She says that apparently the owner's son is going to get married and he wants to sell the hall. If this happens, the F classes will need to find another place again. He seems shocked by the news, speechless to respond. The Sir says that it is breach of contract and nobody buys with damage, warns them not to think of escaping because they are awakeners. They will be charged. Man in Blue denies authorship of what they did and accuses Lisa and Ryo of deliberate destruction out of anger and proposes that the compensation be dealt with directly with them. But she shouted at Noguchi, accusing him of distorting everything, questioning the reason. The Man in Blue wonders if he made a mistake, fears being the next target after Senior Gota's defeat. He plans to blame Lisa and Ryo for the damage to protect himself and hopes to avoid Senior Gota. Ryo said that he saw a for sale flyer and asked the price of the place to the old man, who responded that the building is old, but worth 30 million yen. The protagonist accepted the value of 30 million yen to buy the place. This amount would be enough to renovate it. Everyone is surprised by this unexpected proposal. After the unexpected proposal, the teacher scolds Ryo, saying not to inflate himself, and questions where he would get 30 million yen from. He asks the owner if he has time to finalize the sales contract with Lisa and him. She questions why she is included in this. He tells Lisa that the fighting hall will be hers from now on. She shows surprise at the statement. This makes the blue guy surprised, while the protagonist proceeds saying that, with that, no one will look down on her anymore. He says that if someone does not follow the rules, she can expel him from the hall. The blue guy listens. They leave while the blue guy continues, surprised by the rules spoken on the outside of the place. Lisa asks Ryo if that was true while hugging him, but Lisa cries out for Ryo upon seeing him injured. She tells him to hold on a little longer. They are almost at that tree over there. When he arrives at the tree, he begins to absorb energy from it. His hands begin to suck all the mana from the tree. The energy begins to envelop him as it had done before. Continuing, she wonders if that would be Ryo's healing ability. He thinks that he and the tree are almost becoming one. Ryo thanks the tree, apologizes to Lisa, and asks what she was saying before. Lisa says that if Ryo is paying, she does not understand why the hall would be hers. She alleges that she cannot simply accept this so easily. Ryo says that Lisa knows the hall better and would manage it better than him. He continues, saying that with the hall they can do many things from now on, but she questions this. He says that they should recruit awakeners based on character and not on class. He continues, saying that this way they will create a group of people who trust each other. He recalls that Lisa in another life gathered awakeners with charisma and leadership to form a group. Therefore, even being class F, Lisa was chosen leader. They heard that Lisa's group trusted each other a lot and overcame dangerous domains. They asked what domain would be the next target of the captain. They said that they would follow her anywhere. Questioned division of loot. He thinks that if Lisa leads the fighting hall, it will be incredible. Maybe this will accelerate her second awakening. Lisa asks Ryo if he will do this with her. He apologizes for not being able to help Lisa. He says that he has someone waiting for him. She questions if someone is waiting for him. He states that he would risk his life for her, says that her presence keeps him alive because she is. Lisa interrupts him and says that she already understood. She states that she will manage the fighting hall alone and asks Ryo to focus on what he needs to do. Lisa asks if Ryo will still always appear. He confirms, saying that he needs her to train him. Lisa responds that she will wait for him. Then Ryo says that he is going home now. He says that he will see her later. Lisa says that she knows that she is wrong about Ryo, but does not know what to do, then decides that she cannot give up on him. The protagonist then returns home. He expresses his desire to go to the domain immediately, but states that he cannot. The system informs that he cannot enter the domain without reaching level 15. Even trying to enter, he will be forcibly expelled. He realizes that level 15 may not be enough to clear the domain. Level 15 may just be the minimum to survive there. He thinks that forming a team with an official registered guild may be the safest option now, then realizes that Koyuki is awake. When he goes to see her, he goes into shock, because the girl vomits blood in the bathroom when he arrives to see her. She says that she has to clean up quickly, otherwise her older brother will find out. The protagonist hides to listen better. He asks her to wait a little longer, guarantees that he will continue leveling up, and will gather the ingredients for the antidote and make her healthy again. At that moment, she leaves the bathroom. Koyuki is startled to see Ryo awake. While he says that he was thirsty and went to drink water, Ryo asks how Koyuki is feeling today. She wonders if he noticed something. She says that she is feeling much better than a few days ago. Ryo says that he understands the situation and expresses that it is good to hear that. He says that he will go to a domain in 2 days and will be away for longer and asks the neighbor to help Koyuki with meals. Ryo asks if she hates asking for favors and says that she does not have to worry because this time she was more than happy to help. This is because he paid her a considerable amount. Koyuki said that she understood the situation. She will stay in bed so as not to bother him. Ryo told her not to worry about bothering him. He says that she is his hope and asks for a promise of improvement, and she asks him to return from the domain safely, and Ryo promises and says that he has become stronger. He then asks if she is hungry and asks what she wants to eat. But something happens to him. And then she asks for fried rice, but some motivation is enveloped in blue energy. She asks something to her brother. Ryo says that it is nothing, just fried rice, and he will make it right now, but he thinks that he saw a magical energy coming out of Koyuka's body, but does not see it anymore, thinking his hallucination for using his abilities too much. The person informs that the PRCDNT has finished his report. He heard that the PRCDNT defeated a Class C awakened using elemental abilities and psychic control. Character found that very interesting and wondered what would happen next. He also registered in a guild now, and plans to enter the Karam domain with the guild in 2 days. The guy asks about Karam while the other questions if the president knows about this. He says that the area has a sinister vibe, approaching causes suffocation by aura, only high-level awakeners feel the anomaly. The man says excitedly that Ryo is going there, says that he can hardly wait and hopes to see if he comes back alive. After 2 days, Ryo is in the Karam domain. Because he wanted to see with his own eyes, he discovers that some ingredients for the antidote are hidden there. He decides that he will get the ingredients at any cost. The group asks Ryo if he is the Class F guy who wants to enter the domain with them. He confirms yes, he is Ryo. One guy warns that only Class C enters the domain. A Class F gets screwed up in there and tells Ryo to go home. But Ryo responds that he needs to train for being Class F, states that he has already entered domains before and will not be a hindrance. The guy questions Ryo's confidence. He warns that he will not help in danger, while Ryo responds that he will take care of himself. A girl apologizes for the full-mouthed guy and says not to pay attention to him. The protagonist says that he understands the situation, and comments that people like that are easier to deal with than the types who play tough guys like Senior Kai. He finishes. The girl Yuna says that she is a B healer and Takuto B leader. She says that everyone is Class C, so entry without problems. A man grumbles. Yuna explains that they are not there to clear the domain, but rather looking for someone. She says that it was for this reason that the captain hesitated to bring him along. The protagonist asks if they are looking for someone. She explains that they are looking for an experienced senior, and he went alone to the domain half a month ago and disappeared. He ponders about the senior who disappeared in the domain, states that even an experienced awakener would struggle to survive more than half a month in that place. She agrees that they thought the same about the missing senior, but they received a message from him last week. He and she were worried about the missing senior. His message said to find him in the Karam domain. It was a risky request. They are going to find senior at the agreed location. He thinks about where the antidote ingredient is because the system said it detects ingredients nearby, but he questions this. The girl says that it is a Class C domain and thinks that they will be fine. He asks them to stay close and not separate. Then he apologizes. Ryo asks how Yuna knows that it is Class C and if she has a crystal orb, but she says it is too expensive to buy. Yuna sees a tall man with the ability to sense magic flow. Because of him, they can know the difficulty of the domain beforehand and choose a domain suitable for their level. Ryo then asks Yuna if she noticed anything strange in the domain. He says that he felt a strange presence even before entering. She asks what Ryo meant by strange, while he responds that he was just asking randomly and asks her not to mind. But something happens and catches their attention. One of the members spots that there is something coming from the left and shouts the alert. He alerts that several mutant brown bears are coming. They spot the threat coming towards them. The sword guy alerts everyone to prepare. The threat of mutant bears approaches. He and others prepare with fire and purple energy for the fight. They begin the attack, using the magics at maximum possible. Ryo and Yuna seem scared by the giant bear that roars. The immense creature arises threateningly in the place. The girl holds magic fire, determined and angry, but the sword guy confronts the giant bear. He declares that he is the opponent, and divides the bear in half with a blow. He faces another bear that was watching him, and attacks it also with the fire sword. Ryo exclaims that it is incredible how they work together in perfect synchronization. questioning if it is the power of a group capable of conquering kingdoms, and continues saying that Takuto, as expected of a captain, is clearly the strongest among them. He wonders if Lisa's group will be as incredible as this in the future. He states that Lisa will one day evolve to Class S. Her group will be among the strongest in the world. He thinks that he cannot tell this to Lisa, but wonders if there is something he can do for her. He wonders if he can change the future where she dies. He is surprised by something. Ryo is warned about something behind him. Upon turning around, he sees a huge creature going in his direction, but he prepares to fight. But the sword guy attacks with his flaming sword downwards. He jumps off the bear and goes to talk to the protagonist. Roy realizes that he did not have the opportunity to act. The man speaks angrily to Roy. He asks if he did not warn him not to delay them. His impatience is clear. And he scolds Ryo for being inactive in the face of monsters. He says that a Class F should not hesitate to attack, stating that if he had been any slower, he would already be dead. He adds that he shouldn't have brought someone like him along. The protagonist feels scolded and acknowledges it's justified, it was his fault. However, the girl thinks that Ryo wasn't distracted. He had already sensed the danger and grabbed his weapon before she called out to him. And he was the first to notice the bear approaching. And she believes that Ryo might not be as weak as he seems. Sometime later, they are fighting monsters along the way. In the present moment, the girl notices the injuries from the last fight, but the man apologizes and says that she doesn't need to worry about minor injuries. Roy says that there is no doubt about it. Takuto and the others quickly took down the monsters they encountered, but he thinks it's too easy. The leader finds it strange that a whole day has already passed and they have only seen weak monsters. He says that it doesn't seem like a Class C difficulty. But Takuto tells them to be alert, as bigger monsters might appear. Another character asks if a veteran wouldn't return from something like this. Roy thinks that he still hasn't seen any sign of the antidote ingredient, and the strange feeling he has had from the beginning continues to grow stronger. He wonders why the river is flowing so fast, and he puts his hand in the water to feel the current. And he feels a strange force coming upstream. He wonders if it could be the ingredient for the antidote. When the leader tells Ryo to stop wandering around, then the MC tells Takuto to let him go, making him feel fear as he senses the MC's aura. When Yuna saw something, she shouts that a fog has suddenly started to appear. Everyone says that the fog is very dense and that they can't see anything. Furthermore, their strength is being drained, and everyone tries to gather together. Takuto asks if Kenji senses anything, who replies that his ability is not activating. And Ryo thinks if the river water has the magic energy he felt when he finds something. The protagonist runs while Takuto asks where he is going, finding that stupid. Takuto tells everyone to follow and not to separate, and the fog becomes increasingly dense. Ryo realizes that the magic has disappeared, when Takuto shouts at Ryo that he won't let this pass. When he looks up and asked if the fog has disappeared, when Yuna saw something and told them to look, she asks if that isn't Senior's sword. Then Takuto tells them to split up and search the surroundings. A voice asks if anyone is there, and continues saying that he is there. And Takuto says that there is a voice coming from the cave. They enter the cave and find a person collapsed, and realizes it's Senior. Yuna asks if he is okay, and says that she will treat him immediately. Meanwhile, Ryo asks if it is really possible to survive in this domain for so long, especially with such serious injuries. Furthermore, he says that he could feel the magic before, but now it's gone. He wonders if it disappeared or is hidden. When something catches his attention, and he starts to rummage around, he remembers that the system said that when he got closer to the ingredients, he would naturally sense them. Now he finally understands what it means. He finally finds one of the ingredients, but the flower suddenly turns red and withers. He asks what happened, surprised, and tries to remain calm and look for the cause of it, and realizes that the flower hasn't bloomed. He soon notices that it looks like a normal flower, but it is covered in blood. He also realizes that it's not human blood. Meanwhile, the Senior says that he knew everyone would find him, and Yuna says that now he is safe from mortal danger. Then Ryo asks what happened there. When the Senior was about to ask, Yuna introduces Ryo as a Class F awakened who came to this domain with them to train this time. The injured Senior then says that they shouldn't have come because the boss is cunning and hides in the darkness. He explains that the boss uses terrain and monsters to tire out enemies and attack suddenly. He recounts that he was injured and fled, but the boss ambushed him, and that's how he ended up. And Ryo asks if the boss is also here. He questions if he was bleeding by any chance. Injured Senior says yes, even though he is like this, he is still a Class B awakened. He managed to cause some damage to the monster, and he thanks them. Ryo wonders if the blood on that flower is the boss blood, and questions if the flower will fully bloom if it is covered with fresh boss blood. Then the system warns that the exact method to obtain one of the antidote ingredients has been acquired. Ryo realizes that if he defeats the boss, he can obtain the ingredient. Takuto asks the Senior the reason for returning alone to the domain. Even after escaping and sending a message, the Senior replies that he made himself bait to find the boss again. Then Yuna says that Senior's life is more important, and Takuto replies that they need to rest and recover first. He suggests retreating for now. But the Senior says that he finally managed to injure the boss. He states that if they are going to defeat him, it has to be now. And Ryo would be grateful for that, but he has a bad feeling even knowing that the boss is inside the cave, and he wonders why he would stay here even after suffering such serious injuries. Then Yuna tells the protagonist that she can't leave him alone and asks if he will go with them to defeat the boss, but Ryo says that he doesn't seem enthusiastic. She says that Senior has always been cautious and prioritized their lives, and that before he would leave the domain to prepare to counterattack. She wonders if she is overthinking, since Senior said so. He must be confident, and Ryo asks if that was his weapon. They answer yes, that Senior cherishes his sword and never lets it go. She thought that they would live and die together. Then Ryo finds it strange that even though Senior has regained consciousness and now wants to defeat the boss, he hasn't even tried to look for his sword. And Yuna says that's true and questions why he hasn't looked for his sword, as that has never happened before. It is when the Senior appears from behind and asks Yuna what's wrong, leaving her surprised. She turns around and says that it's nothing, she just thought about returning the sword to Senior. Then he thanks her and asks Ryo if he is the Class F Awakened, says that they will encounter the domain boss for the first time, but he doesn't need to be afraid, just follow them in silence. Ryo replies that he understands and will do as he says. Then says for everyone to go, as the boss should be southwest of the cave and wants to finish this quickly. Meanwhile, Ryo thinks that the Senior is acting strange, as if he is hiding something and that his only goal is to defeat the boss. And so they set off in search of the boss. Yuna thinks that Senior is experienced in this domain, so there shouldn't be any worries, but she feels a strange sensation when she trips on a stone, and Ryo catches her. He asks if she is okay as they are going to fight the boss, and as the group's healer, she can't let her guard down even for a moment. She thinks that Ryo is right. Now is not the time to worry about something like that. Their top priority is to defeat the domain boss and ensure everyone returns safely. And she wonders how Ryo manages to stay so calm. He noticed Senior's sword first, even in the fog. It was thanks to him that they escaped the fog. She thinks that maybe Ryo can find the boat's direction. Then Yuna asks Ryo if he is really Class F. He just says that his certification says that he is. Yuna thinks that yes, but national certification is the most reliable level assessment now. However, since domains and awakened beings began to emerge in the last year, everyone is still hesitant, and there are chances that the assessment is wrong. Ryo realizes that Yuna is smart and has noticed that he is hiding his true strength, and Yuna thinks that with his extraordinary perception and reaction speed, Ryo must be at least Class C. But ahead, Takuto asks if Senior is feeling well. Senior says that he is much better, but still far from fully recovering and will depend on Takuto, who tells Senior not to worry, he will give his all for him. Senior says that they are both Class B, but Takuto has natural talent and has already surpassed him, says that having him with him puts him at ease. Takuto replies that it is all thanks to Senior's guidance. And Ryo says that it seems like everyone gets along well with the veteran. And Yuna explains that the group has Senior at the center as he guides everyone. Takuto has been with Senior since awakening. Being like master and student, Senior doesn't like to be called master, so Takuto calls him Senior, and so do the others. Sometime later, they arrive in an open field. The Senior tells everyone to be careful as the domain boss is there. Another character questions where he could be hiding in a place like that. When Ryo realizes that there is something coming from above them, and they realize it's a giant falcon. The Senior tells everyone to be careful with the monster's wings. Then the falcon uses a wind attack in the form of a tornado, which makes everyone get thrown away. Ryo now knows that the falcon can create whirlwinds, being a problematic opponent to face. And at this rate, the others will not be able to attack the monster. The Senior says that then they will have to force their way through, then asks Yuna to strengthen Takuto. She is strengthening Takuto as soon as she receives the request. Then Senior orders Takuto to confront the monster, who also advances for a direct attack. However, Takuto dodges by jumping over the falcon and counterattacking. The monster then uses another ability. It is when Ryo notices a fog approaching quickly, which makes him retreat, and wonders if that hawk also summoned the creatures that are in the fog. He questions if the plan is to eliminate them one by one. And this time Ryo states that he won't let that happen, counterattacking one of the creatures and tearing it apart. With a few movements, he defeats several monsters while emanating power from his body. He sees the level up message from the system and wonders if he leveled up by defeating mutant creatures and realizes that this domain is not normal. Another creature approaches Yuna, who despairs when she sees the monster, which was split in half soon after, which leaves her surprised. Then Ryo appears, who asks if she is okay. She replies that yes, that she just got a little scared and lost her strength for a moment. Then she realizes that Ryo took down the monster with one blow. And Ryo said that there are no other monsters nearby and that they should rest for a bit, but she asks about the others. And Ryo said that he believes they will probably be fine. She wonders why Ryo is not affected by the fog, and also questions how he knows that there are no monsters nearby. Meanwhile, Kenji is being attacked by two monsters, who are soon after beheaded. He asks if they are saved, feeling a little relieved, and the monsters continue to be defeated. The shaggy-haired guy asks what happened and why everyone suddenly died. Then he shouts, calling for Senior and the others. Meanwhile, Ryo finds that strange. He can't find the others and wonders how long this fog will last, and that the giant falcon is probably still watching from somewhere, and starts thinking of a way to lure the falcon out. When he hears a voice and wonders if it is Takuto speaking. When Ryo is hit by a gust of wind, he thinks that the falcon appeared near Takuto, who at that moment is standing still concentrating. He senses that the monster is behind him. While they shout for Takuto to look back, the monster then advances, and Takuto smiles because he knows about the monster's attack. The monster hits him, breaking something. And Ryo is surprised by Takuto's physical enhancement and his ability. He realizes that Takuto appeared to the falcon intentionally to lure it. Then Takuto counterattacked, hitting the falcon. He believes that this time the monster will be defeated, but the monster also counterattacks, making Takuto get thrown. Then the monster grabs Takuto with its beak and flies away to another place. Ryo thinks that the falcon will try to eliminate Takuto by throwing him from the sky. He uses an ability on his blade and throws it towards the monster. The blade increases even more in speed and pierces the falcon's heart. They realize that now the fog is disappearing. Then Ryo tells him to burn the falcon. Then Kiji uses his fire ability, incinerating the monster. However, Takuto is also in free fall and ends up hitting the ground, causing a lot of damage to his body. And the monster also ends up being eliminated. Kiji asks if Leader is okay and Yuna runs to heal him. Takuto asks what happened to the falcon. Kenji says that it's dead and praises Leader, saying that he was amazing and they did it. Meanwhile, Ryo feels relieved that everyone is safe. Excited, he thinks that with all the falcon's blood, an antidote ingredient should start to grow around there soon. However, Ryo is surprised by something. He wonders how Senior suddenly appeared, as he couldn't find him a short time ago. Who at that moment has a scary face. Then a purple crystal came out of the falcon, and the Senior said that he finally got it. Ryo realizes that something is not right. He says that when the main boss dies, the energy core should shatter instantly, and questions why it is still maintaining its shape. He asks if his senses are sharper after leveling up. He says that he doesn't feel cracks in the barrier nearby when he observes something, and wonders why there's another of those incomplete flowers there, like before, and that the falcon's blood shouldn't have spread so far. He thinks that the one who was there must have been the Senior. Then the Senior picks up an energy core from the monster, and a glow obscures his vision of the protagonist for a moment. Everyone asks what is happening and what that could be. And the shaggy-haired guy asks Senior what is happening there, while Ryo shouts from no te and wasar. When the shaggy-haired guy senses something and leaves everyone shocked, the Senior pierces the boy's heart, who falls lifeless to the ground. Surprised, Takuto asks why the Senior did that, who at this moment is releasing energy. Everyone feels the pressure of this power, and Takuto is shocked by the intense magic energy. He says that he can't move. The Senior asks Takuto what is wrong and why he can't get up. The Senior demands respect and tells Takuto to get up when he speaks to him, and asks why Takuto is not resisting and if Takuto plans to endure this, which left the poor guy feeling pain. But the Senior finds this boring and tells Takuto to die. When he notices something, it's Ryo advancing for an attack, but the Senior manages to dodge, and both stare at each other. The Senior asks how a mere class F is still able to move while enduring his magic pressure, and Yuna asks Senior what happened to him, and Kiji asks why he is doing this. Then Ryo says that this guy is not their Senior, which leaves everyone confused by this information. Ryo says that is exactly what he said, it is not their Senior, and thinks that he should have realized it sooner. From the first flower he noticed, the blood on it was not from the domain boss, but from him. He realized that discarding his weapon so easily, attacking so recklessly different from before, and suddenly appearing in the dense fog, all of this pointed to the fact that it was not the real Senior. Then Ryo says that if his theory is correct, then the man in front of them is the real boss of this domain. And the Senior says that since they have already discovered it, he no longer needs to maintain this appearance, and begins to show his true form. The demon says that this form seems more appropriate, and Ryo realizes that it is a humanoid monster. He questions the early appearance, as humanoid monsters should only appear a year from now. He wonders how no one found him before. Everyone gets scared, and Yuna questions if it is a humanoid monster that speaks their language, while Takuto asks why he imitated the veteran and where he is. Then the monster says that their companion is right there, and explains that after descending to Earth, half of his energy core was stolen by a falcon, which made him very angry, and upon finding that human, they fought and he won. And he thought, why not use this human to recover the half that was taken from him? Then he began to devour him, and assumed the Senior's form. After that, he managed to lure them in by finding a way to contact them later. But they took a long time to arrive, and in the meantime, the falcon found him and attacked again. He had no choice but to hide in that cave. But now that he has obtained an intact energy core, he is the strongest in this domain, which leaves Takuto and the others shocked by the Senior's death. Outraged, Takuto says that he will finish off the demon, but Ryo tells the others to take Takuto and evacuate. He will handle things from there. Then Takuto asks what Ryo thinks he can do, who replies that he will defeat the enemy in front of him. The demon hears and mocks Ryo, while Takuto questioning if a class F can defeat him. He affirms that yes, and he will do it alone. And Yuna says that she understands and that they are counting on him. Takuto, stunned, asks what she is saying, but Yuna ignores him and asks Kenji to help pull Takuto along. While they move away, Takuto shouts, ordering them to let him go, and asks if they plan to abandon him to die. Then the demon says that humans love to play the hero, but in the end, everyone will be slaughtered by him anyway. However, Ryo attacks him unprepared, which left the monster astonished by such speed, and soon after counterattacking Ryo. During the fight, Ryo thinks that he has already cleared the level designated by the system, which means that he has more than enough strength to take down this domain boss. Furthermore, he continues to level up when he lands a blow on the demon, and everyone is surprised to see Ryo's true strength. And Takuto thinks that he couldn't even draw his sword against that monster, and wonders if Ryo's skill level surpasses his. The demon says that he heard that Class F was the weakest among the awakened, being no different from an ordinary human, and asks how Ryo can fight him and even injure him, and if the protagonist was hiding his true strength all along. The creature says that killing Ryo unilaterally would be boring. It continues saying that the more his prey fights desperately, the more exciting the hunt becomes. Ryo wonders if he is planning to use some kind of ability, when the monster uses a sound ability, and Ryo tries to defend himself from the attack. The demon's ability also affects the rest of the people who were watching the fight, and Ryo thinks that this is not a normal sonic attack. At this rate, it will destroy their organs, and he has to stop the monster. Then he uses an ability, touching the ground, trapping the demon with vines, and the demon notices that Ryo can control wood. Takuto says that was close, which leaves everyone relieved that the monster's ability was nullified by Ryo. The monster says that the protagonist may have become too conceited, and that this will not keep him trapped forever. It is when he realizes that Ryo has disappeared, who appears attacking him from behind, saying that if he stops his movements for a moment, it will be enough, and delivers a precise blow to the monster, who screams furiously that he will kill him, while wings begin to emerge from his back, and breaks free from the vines. Ryo is surprised and says that this is bad. He has become stronger again, and says that he cannot let this monster roam free, then advances for another attack, when he sees the monster counterattacking, and has his body pierced by the monster. Ryo's team is shocked to see him being injured, but Ryo says that it is not over yet. He wonders if the monster coated his blade with poison while spitting blood. Being caught soon after by the monster tells him not to worry, as neither the stab nor the poison will be fatal, and that he will let him cower in fear and despair and then slowly kill him, and that this is the price for challenging him. And the monster also begins to fly higher and higher, and says that this height is perfect, and if he releases Ryo from that height, his bones will shatter and pierce his entrails, and that this will be a beautiful sight. And then the monster releases the protagonist, who falls in free fall, and Yuna says that if he falls from that height, he will die. When Ryo hits the ground, Kiji thinks that this will be the end. The demon says, laughing, that humans are pathetic like ants. He states that the earth will be their paradise and humans hell. Ryo's body is completely shattered, but begins to recover with his healing ability, using the vitality of the plants around him. He thinks that the demon really dropped him in the forest and unknowingly helped him. The system then warns that the beginner vitality transfer skill is being used. Ryo's body then begins to recover, returning to being intact again, which leaves the monster surprised and asks what is happening, and why the trees in that area are all withered, and thinks that the corpse and Ryo released some kind of poison. When something pulls him, catching him by surprise, and pulls him down, thus Ryo attacks him again. The demon defends the attack and says that Ryo looks better than he expected and asks if he healed himself. But the protagonist just remains silent. Then the system notifies that a psychic attack was used, but the use of the ability failed. The opponent's psychic defense exceeds the ability level when the vine breaks, and the monster attempts a counterattack. The protagonist thinks that the psychic attack is his only trump card for now. If this demon's psychic defense is too high, he needs to think of a way to panic him. Then the creature says that he decided to cut off the protagonist's head and wonders if maybe another one will grow. The protagonist notices something and wonders what that is, and if it could be what he is thinking. Then he gives a smile. Then the monster questions the reason for the latter. Ryo asks if the demon always desired power, but questions if the power obtained really belongs to him. The demon asks what he means. Then Ryo asks if the demon is sure that he merged with the energy core and if he would be mistaken, and that he must have noticed that the magic he absorbed is furious inside his body, trying to escape, and that this presumption will not last long. Soon, he will lose all his power. Then the protagonist prepares to attack again. The monster asks if protagonist thinks he can beat him with nonsense, but Ryo proposes to test if it is nonsense. Then he uses a psychic attack ability, then starts to make a countdown, leaving the monster surprised. The demon wants to know what is happening. He says that his magic energy is leaking, but he already absorbed the total energy core, and that this couldn't be happening, and wonders why he is returning to that guy's form. When he sees himself, he says that he can't move, asks why his body is not responding. When the monster says that food should not run away on its own, and that this made him even hungrier, but the demon tells him not to get closer. When the monster prepares to devour him, which leaves the demon distressed, and makes him enter into despair. When he returns to reality after spitting blood, because of the protagonist's attack on his heart, then Ryo advances with a punch, which hits the demon and makes him get thrown. The demon then says that there is no way he can lose. The protagonist asks what he meant when he said that the earth would become his paradise, and if he has already found a way out of the domain. The demon laughs and says that when the gate opens, they will descend to Earth, and when that happens, humanity will be finished. Ryo thinks what is the gate and wonders if that means that those guys can get out through a specific point. He questions if in his past life, the reason for the appearance of these demon tribes was this gate. Demon asks if the domain was to search for that gate, and tells the human that he should be afraid, that they have already discovered the approximate location of the gate. The demon then says that if they release him, maybe he will say where the gate is. So, the video ends here. Leave a like to support the channel, and if you don't want to miss the next part, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thanks, and see you in the next video.